Hey YouTube. So my name is Heather Snow and I run a personal training company, an inspirational company called Getting Healthy with Heather Snow. Shocker, right? I normally talk about weight loss surgery issues, afterlife, stuff like that, but today is Mother's Day 2020 and I want to talk about another issue that affects me, and it affects a lot of women. And I'm sure there's a lot of men who are affected by it too. And it's something that makes this day so much harder for us, and that is infertility. So I think if you've watched any of my other videos, you know I get really real. But this is a hard one for me. This is probably the issue I've suffered silently with the most. And it's the hardest for me to share because of the feeling of shame and a loneliness. And I think that's why I'm inspired to share my story of infertility, which is not done yet because I still don't have children. So in 2006, I was a senior in high school. It was not long after I graduated. I was living with my boyfriend, my best friend, and her fiance. And I had a major pill popping problem. I also have suffered from chronic UTIs all of my life. And it's just how my body is made. There's nothing I can do about it, but they get really, really bad and they cause secondary infections and they've caused issues. So in 2006, I was getting sick and some weird stuff was happening to my body. So I went to the doctor and I found out that I was 5 weeks pregnant. I was in an abusive relationship in high school. Maybe had just graduated. I was not ready to be a mom. So I continued to pop pills and do whatever I wanted, and a week later I miscarried. And for a long time I felt guilt and shame because I felt like I'd caused it with my lifestyle, which is a good possibility. I could have, popping 75 to 100 pills a day of who knows what. I knew I wasn't ready, so there was like relief, but there is shame. Anytime you miscarry for any reason, you feel shame. Even if you are not ready to be a mother, there is still shame attached to it. I didn't actually share that with anyone. Nobody knew. Not even the man I was dating. The boy. He was a boy, let's face it. He hit me. He was a boy that I was dating at the time. No one knew. After that, when I would go in for like a pap smear or anything like that, my doctors would say things don't necessarily, like my pap smears would come back normal, but they would say, something doesn't seem right. I see you miscarried. We probably need to get you to a specialist. You're probably going to have issues carrying full term. Well, I didn't have insurance. I was going to, like clinics and things like that don't really have the resources. And I was young. I wasn't ready to have kids. So I wasn't too worried about it because I was like, oh, it'll just fix itself or whatever. I don't know. And if I'd gone sooner, it wouldn't have changed anything. And I think it was like 2013, 2014. I had a good job. I had okay insurance, but I found a fantastic doctor who just really dove into everything. I had fibromyalgia. I was having like these migraines to the point I couldn't speak right. Like, at one point he thought I was having a stroke because of my speech from the migraines and just blacking out, not remembering stuff. So they figured out I had an infection and it was affecting multiple parts of my body. So I was put in the hospital for it. And it was really scary. But he was a really great doctor. So they figured out that the primary infection started out as a UTI and got out of control and had spread. And so he was doing all these tests and sending me to a specialist and all that. And so it was confirmed that I have a lot of scarring on my uterus, most likely from infections like the one that caused mental blackouts and migraines. And that I would never be able to carry full term. And that was really devastating for me. My mom has 6 beautiful children. I'm the youngest of them. All of my siblings have children. I have one sister-in-law who struggled with infertility, but her baby was 2 or 3 months old at this point, her first child. So I really felt like I didn't have anybody to talk to. So I didn't tell anyone when I was first told. On top of just feeling like nobody would understand, I went into a deep depression because I was raised, women are, blessed to be able to bring children on this earth. That's our special gift. But what happens when you're told you don't you're not complete, so you can't partake in that special gift? Depression, shame, anxiety, just completely alone. I felt less than a human. A few months after I initially got told that, I opened up to a few of my friends, and I didn't pick the right people to open up to. Some dismissed it. Some didn't know what to say, so they just kind of moved on. And then, in particular, my guy friend that I was close to, there wasn't a romantic relationship. He was just like a really good guy friend. Was like, oh, you need to make sure, because I'm single. I was single at the time. You need to make sure that you are very upfront in the beginning of any relationship, because men want biological children. So you need to be upfront so nobody wastes their time. And that was the advice I got. So it just confirmed that I was on top of coming from a broken marriage and suffering from anxiety and depression and being a victim of sexual child abuse, being a victim of rape, being out of an abusive relationship, and now not being able to have children. I was just not wife material. So I ended up moving back home, not because of that, because of other stuff. And I met a great man, and he did not want kids. And so he was like totally on board with the fact I couldn't have kids. And it got, my anxiety and depression were so bad, and I had fibromyalgia, which is a chronic pain disorder, and I hurt all the time, and I had no energy. So it got to the point where I was just like, oh, okay, well, I did something wrong, and this is God's way of telling me I shouldn't have kids, that he doesn't want me to have kids because I won't be a good mother. So I did everything I could to accept that and be happy with my new life. I had another miscarriage with my husband. I didn't know I was pregnant until I started miscarrying. And it just confirmed, that I don't deserve kids, that I'd be a bad mom. I'm sharing this because I know there are a lot of women out there, and there are men out there who learn that they cannot have children, and how devastating that is, and how you feel worthless and alone and depressed and scared and heartbroken. And you are not alone. Infertility is a huge issue. There are so many people who suffer from it, and there's different levels. And how your story ends is gonna be so unique to you and your situation. It's not gonna be the same as how my story ends. But that doesn't mean that we don't have the same feelings, and we don't struggle, because we do. I have found that a lot of men are not open to dating someone who knows they can't have children because they want biological children. And I'm like, you know what? You don't even know if you can have bio kids because you've never tried. So yeah, when you're single and trying to date, it sucks. When you're married and trying to have kids and that's when you find out, that sucks too. No matter what, no matter how it comes out, it sucks. And you get angry. And your heart is broken. So, I had a lot of other issues, like hormone issues. I would be on my period for months. I think the longest was like 9 months before we were able to figure out how to get it to stop. Eventually that didn't work anymore. So I had what's called an uterine ablation, which is where they stick a hot thing up in your uterus while you're sleeping and like burn your uterus off. So I don't have periods anymore because I'd be on them for months. Sometimes I regret that because that took any chance of hope away. I started my weight loss journey in November of 2018. I had my ablation 2018. So I had my ablation May of 2019. So a year ago. And, I wish I would have waited, but then at the same time, I don't think it would have changed anything. I'm just a different person now. So the calling to be a mom has been nonstop. Now that I'm a healthy person, I have my depression and my anxiety in control. My fibromyalgia is in control. I haven't had a real issue with fibromyalgia in 6 or 7 months. I have amazing amounts of energy. I'm a happy person. I realize that me not being able to have kids the normal way isn't God punishing me at all. He just is giving me a different way to write my story than everybody else's, and that's okay. Doesn't make me a bad person. Doesn't mean I'm not meant to be a mom. It just means I'm meant to be a mom in a different way. So I went to my husband and I told him that I wanted kids. You remember the one who was happy I couldn't have kids because he didn't want any? And I asked him on February 13th of 2020 if he thought he could ever see a different life where we would have kids. On February 14th, which was the day we'd met 5 years before, he told me he wanted a divorce. So I've been disregarded as date material because I can't have children, and I have been left because I want them. It's very confusing and heartbreaking. I do know now that no matter what, I will be a mom. I don't know if I will find someone and will adopt, if I'll find someone and he'll already have kids, if I will just adopt on my own, if I'll foster. I don't know how my story ends yet. But I know Mother's Day is a very hard day for anyone suffering from infertility. And I just want you to know you're not alone, that there's a lot of us out there. And just because maybe you haven't got to hold your child yet, or maybe your child came to you in the not usual manner, I still feel like you're a mother, because I feel at least three children are calling me. And I love them so much. And so I know other women feel that too, that calling. Men too feel it. You know your children are out there somewhere, and you love them, and you're doing, like, you do things like, okay, this is going to help me get children. You already have the heart of a mother. So don't forget that in your hard days, in the days where you're fighting, taking the shots to get pregnant, or going through all the steps for home studies to get approved for adoption, or meeting with birth mom after birth mom after birth mom, or whatever, or a surrogate, or saving up the money to pay for treatments or adoption or whatever, because it's expensive. You have a mother's heart, and you're a mom. So happy Mother's Day. I love y'all. You can always reach out to me if you're struggling with something. Talk to you guys later.